Sorry for that, but important to put out student fires. Um, so anyway, we were talking about um, GAPs, good agricultural practices that would be the same in very general senses uh, for all companies. You know, you've got to wash your hands. You've got to provide proper bathroom facilities. You've got to make sure that people aren't eating in the fields when they're on breaks. Those are the same for everybody, but they're not going to be the same in the details. There's different um, issues with the kinds of animals that might be around your farm, whether you're near a wildlife area, near a river or lake, whether you have a surface pond on your facility, and on and on and on. When you get down to the real details, how are you going to do your farming activities on your farm? The gaps are just a starting point. You need to write your own plan for food safety and proper agricultural practices. So the uh, audit verification program, now it says here it's a voluntary program, but there are mandatory audits when it comes to food safety. There are voluntary audits for compliance and learning and getting assistance, but you can't just say, I don't really want anybody inspecting. I don't want to volunteer for a food safety inspection. It doesn't work that way. And there are other things that have come around, like Global GAP, trying to make food safety universal so that all of the food safety rules and procedures are as similar as possible, no matter where the product came from, with any Global GAP participating country. GHPs, again, good handling practices, the stuff that happens after the material is coming out of the field, cooling, washing, transportation, warehousing, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially, you're trying to create a set of basic standards for companies to follow, and then make sure your company is putting in all the details and training for your employees to make it as safe as possible. Now, there are lots of FDA guidance documents on GAPs and GHPs that also have specific information on fresh cut fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, melons, tomatoes, and other things. So depending on what you're doing, there's lots and lots of opportunity to get information about GAPs and GHPs from the FDA. So these GAPs and GHP programs, as well as GMPs, are based on scientific principles. They are not just put together, oh, this sounds like a good thing, let's try that. No, they look at microbial loads, and they look at the science behind how diseases are spread through the different products, how they can have cross-contamination, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the AMS, there's an acronym, I mentioned it before, but now know it. Agricultural Marketing Service. The ARS, the Agricultural Research Service of the USDA, we talked about that in another lecture, and it's all about finding out what are the best practices, procedures to recommend. The AMS, the Marketing Service, the Agricultural Marketing Service of the USDA, is all about getting information out, reassuring the public. It's about creating good information for agriculture and good image for agriculture. So the AMS works with the ARS, they work with academia, the colleges. There are national and now global GAPs has really replaced this. This is an older presentation, and global GAPs is the standard. The Association of Fruit and Vegetable Inspection and Standardization Agencies, they work with the USDA to make sure that we're finalizing procedures that make the most sense. The Association of Food and Drug Officials, industry groups, all work very closely with the USDA. Now, here's those acronyms. The Good Agricultural Practices, GAPs, are the farm level procedures. Good handling practices are about fresh produce, fresh pack, repacking, and receiving. They are, I would include their cooling and transportation as well. And the good manufacturing practices at the manufacturing level, you link to the Agricultural Marketing Services Processed Fruit and Vegetable Grading Service. So it's the three major chunks of the core agricultural responsibilities, ag industry responsibilities in a food safety pipeline. Now, there's other things, restaurants and grocery stores, farmers markets. They also have a piece of important things to play in all of this, but those are outside of the traditional and legal definitions of agriculture. So what are some of the specific questions that are applied as appropriate to individual operations? Well, what's going on into the water? Are you using surface water? Are you using well water? If you're using surface water, is it canal water, lake water, river water? Where's it coming from? Lots of things about water quality, water contamination, wildlife related to the water, etc. Manure and municipal biosolids. So you have these nutrient-rich materials that have been used in agriculture for millennia, and at least with the manure, the municipal biosolids are the leftovers from sewage that are treated and turned into appropriate soil amendment materials. And that's not something you add directly to our fresh fruits and vegetables, but it is used in turf grass, parks, horticultural environments, etc. Football fields, you name it. Worker health and hygiene, sanitary facilities. Yes, got to have good sanitary facilities. Field sanitation, keeping things clean in the field. No garbage, no eating in the fields. You know, you only eat in the work areas. No use of the field as your bathroom, which was the standard practice back in the day. Anyway. Packing facility sanitation, storage and transportation, wholesale distribution centers and terminal warehouses, traceback. Traceback is when you use barcoding, QR codes, or other technologies to be able to figure out where did this bag of salad come from? And you should be able to trace the bag of salad back clearly to the manufacturer. That's the easy part. It says so right on the bag. But then what day was it packed? Which line was it packed on? Then trace it back further. Who transported that? In what truck to get the raw product to the processor? Trace it back further. Which field was it grown in? What day was it harvested? Which harvest crew actually harvested the material that went into that bag of salad? Now it's going to split a little because it all doesn't trace back in a straight line. As you're tracing back, it's going to branch off because you've got the lettuce and the cabbage and the carrots, and maybe you've got the croutons and you've got the salad dressing and all of these things that are part of this salad kit or salad product. And so traceback can get quite complicated, but it doesn't have to always be. Now don't worry about the number here. I'm sure this has changed. That's an old number. Not worried about it. But there are a lot of inspectors around that do the GAP and GHP audits for the USDA. They don't mention GMPs here. I added the GMP wording on that one slide a couple slides ago, just so you're aware of it. But that's outside of the USDA's responsibility. They don't deal with the manufacturing. Auditor training. If a company is getting audited by somebody, you need somebody who knows what they're doing. So there is an auditor training program. It says nationwide uniformity, but the effort now is really, and has been for several years, to make this global uniformity as best as possible. The audit results are available. They're publicly available. I don't think that they identify individual ranches and farms, but they have composited detailed information that's publicly available. Audits occur generally once a year. That could change depending on your situation. A lot of audits are going to be required by customers. So if you're selling to McDonald's, they might want their own auditor coming out as a separate audit. And some of the big places like a Walmart, Safeway, McDonald's, or whatever, if they're your customers, they're going to have additional requirements beyond just these USDA audits that you may go through. There are certainly proposed modifications that are constantly occurring in these GAP programs, GHP programs, because they get feedback from individuals based on their audits, and that helps the process be improved over time. That's it for this lecture.